Boa tarde a todos e todas que estão conosco aqui hoje. É um prazer estar recebendo o nosso segundo Keynote Speaker. Essa palestra será em inglês, mas o link para a versão com a tradução simultânea está fixado nos comentários do chat. Agora eu vou fazer a apresentação do nosso palestrante em inglês. Fiquem à vontade para fazer as perguntas em qualquer dos canais, pois os nossos voluntários vão encaminhar para mim. So, I would like to welcome everyone who is here to hear the second keynote speaker, our second keynote speaker. I am pleased to present to you Professor Ben Shneiderman. Ben Shneiderman is an emeritus distinguished university professor in the Department of the Computer Science, founding director of the Human-Computer Interaction Laboratory, and a member of the Institute for Advanced Computer Studies at the University of Maryland. He received the ACM Hcai Lifetime Achievement Award in 2001. He is a fellow of the National Academy of Inventors in 2015. He is elected a member of the National Academy of Engineering in 2010 in recognition of his pioneering contributions to human-computer interaction and information visualization. His contributions include the direct manipulation concept, which led the clickable highlighted web links and the ubiquitous touchscreen keyboards on mobile devices, dynamic carry slider for data exploration, and a patent for photo tagging. Ben Shneiderman pioneered the highlighted textual link in 1983, and it became part of Hyperparis, a precursor to the web. Ben Shneiderman is the author of the books Software Psychology, Human Factors in Computer and Information Systems, and The Design of User Interface Strategies for Effective Human-Computer Interaction, which is popular for his list of 18 golden rules of interface design. His book, Leonardo's Laptop, Human Needs and New Computing Technology, won the IEEE Award for Distinguished Literary Contribution in 2003. He also wrote The New ABCs of Research, Achieving Breakthrough Collaborations, and the related Rock the Research, your guidebook to accelerate campus discovery and innovation. Ben Shneiderman's work has inspired our community for many years, and today I have the extraordinary honor and the privilege to welcome him to our event once again. His lecture is titled Human-Centered AI, a New Synthesis. And now, it's my pleasure to yield the floor to Professor Ben Shneiderman.
Obrigado. Thank you. I'm really pleased to be here and to come back to Brazil, even virtually. I've been 5 times before to Brazil and appreciate the warm hospitality that Brazilians offer. And so I appreciated this invitation and the chance to speak to you today about a topic that feels very important to me, a great passion about human-centered AI, a new synthesis, a new way of thinking. So the first question, of course, is what do we mean by human-centered AI? And what is it? And it's a notion that has process and product. It brings forward to the world of AI. In the last decade, artificial intelligence researchers have made many important breakthroughs and improved machine learning. And all around the world, there's a rapid movement to add AI to many, many systems. And these could bring many benefits. However, I think those benefits will be improved and the systems will be more successful if the designers adopt the methods and the principles of human-computer interaction. So for me, the idea of human-centered AI means to use the processes of usability, user-centered design, usability testing, And the methods that have been developed, the observation of users, iterative testing, prototypes, etc. And then it's to adopt the principles and the rules of design that give users control over systems in appropriate ways, even as we raise the level of automation. And what's the goal of this? The goal is to amplify, augment, empower, and enhance people. We have many good methods to measure the performance of AI algorithms, and that remains important. But in addition, we need to measure the performance of the people who use the programs that contain these algorithms. And so that's the combination that I'm so eager to promote, and hope that you will open your minds to these possibilities. I think this Hci audience in Brazil will be sympathetic to these ideas, and I hope you will find ways to put these ideas to work in the projects that you are working on as researchers and the projects you are working on with professional developers. So there's 3 parts to this story. The first one is the Hci Framework, and it begins with a certain philosophy about how do we think about people working together and people using technology. And so I go back to the idea of levels of automation that was first expressed by Tom Sheridan in 1980. And he said that there were 10 levels of automation, from full human control to full computer control. And so the designer's challenge was to choose a point along this spectrum of 10 levels of how much user control and how much computer automation. And I believe this idea, and I wrote about it in my first edition of the book in 1986. And that section was called Balancing Automation and Human Control. And that assumed that you had to make this decision: how much control and how much automation. But over the years, I became less and less comfortable with this idea. And by the later editions of the book, I began to change my way of thinking and writing and the language I was using. And that section of the book became titled Ensuring Human Control While Increasing Automation. Ensuring human control while increasing automation. The first time you hear that, the first time I wrote that, it was a little bit of a puzzle to me. What did I mean? How was it possible to increase automation? Tom Sheridan's model suggested that it was a zero-sum game, that if you increase the automation, you must necessarily reduce human control. And I came to see it this way, that there were 2 separate dimensions. There was low to high human control and low to high computer automation. And our goal as designers was to find the happy place where we could have high levels of human control and high levels of computer automation. And that idea was presented in March 2020 in the International Journal of Human-Computer Interaction. And you can take a look at the argument, which I think has a strong foundation. And the way I'd like to present it to you today is in terms of this 2x2 matrix, from low to high computer automation on the bottom and low to high human control on the left-hand side. So with these 4 quadrants, our goal often will be to find the reliable, safe, and trustworthy solution that has high human control and high computer automation. And the digital camera is my favorite example. When you take your digital camera, you decide where you're going to point the camera. You decide how much zoom to do. You decide on your decisive moment when to take the picture. It's your picture. It's your creative act. At the same time, the AI and machine learning algorithms are providing great services. They're doing the automatic focus, they're controlling the lighting, they're reducing hand jitter, and they provide many services. It's an excellent blend of high levels of human control for the things that matter to people and high levels of automation for the aspects that can be reliable, safe, and trustworthy. So that's the basic idea. Elevator systems are another familiar example. We press the button to get the elevator, it arrives, the doors open, we go in, we press the 16th floor, the doors close, we go up, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 16, the doors open, and we arrive. It's reliable, it's safe, and trustworthy. But we feel in control. We feel like we've chosen which floor we go to. And so that's the right kind of blend, a high degree of machine learning. And we'll take a look at other examples as we go further. At the same time, we have to remember that there are places and situations where there is a need for high levels of computer control, such as a pacemaker embedded in your chest to regulate your heartbeat, which has to operate automatically, and then an airbag, which has to be deployed in your car in 200 milliseconds for it to be effective. So those are places for high degree of automatic and computer control. But we have to remember there's situations in where we have high levels of human autonomy, where we want to ride our own bicycle, we want to play the piano, we want to take care of our children. We don't want computers to do this for us, we want to do it. And we enjoy the creative exploration, we enjoy the self-efficacy, the sense of mastery that we have as we improve our skill in using these devices. We also have low computer automation and low human control as an option in some circumstances. Now notice in this diagram on the far right-hand side, we have a gray area that points to excessive automation. And there's a danger of having too much automation, maybe most clear in the Boeing 737 MAX, which 2 years ago produced 2 disastrous crashes of planes with 346 people dying. And that was because the designers believed they could make an autonomous automatic system that was so effective that they did not even tell the pilots of its existence. And so the pilots were not trained to use it. There was nothing on their display that indicated that this system was being engaged and put to work. And so when the plane surprisingly tilted downwards, the pilots pulled back 20 times in the minutes before the plane crashed. They did not think of turning it off because they didn't know that it was turned on. Okay, so excessive automation is a danger we have to be aware of. There's also at the top of this diagram excessive human control. And there's a danger of giving people too much control. And this is a well understood situation in human factors design and research. And so the idea of interlocks or guards have become very common in almost every device that's built and become successful. So your self-cleaning oven in your house, when the temperature goes above 500 degrees Fahrenheit, the door is locked and you cannot open it because opening it would expose you to extremely hot temperatures that would at least burn your hair and maybe burn your face and cause other injuries. And so this is the richer perspective than the one-dimensional model that has so widely been described and has been so central for 40 years. Let's take a look at another example. Here is a pain control device for patients in hospitals. The old-fashioned device from 70 years ago had a morphine drip bag, where a plastic bag with morphine, and it would drip, 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 drip consistently. Low automation, low control. There are 2 dangers: that the patient would get too much morphine, which would kill them, or they would get too little morphine, which would mean they would still be in pain. And so to handle one of these things, the automatic dispenser was developed. By monitoring human heartbeat and breathing rates, it's possible to control the amount of morphine so it limits the danger. Similarly, patients were given a control trigger so they could ask for more morphine if they were still in pain. But it had a restriction of only 6 times per hour that they could pull the trigger. And so it limited the danger of excessive human control. The general movement now is towards patient-guided but clinician-monitored. A hospital control center may supervise 50 of such devices in a hospital and can track the performance of all of them, see how well they're doing, see which ones are failing, and collect the data that will improve the machine learning algorithms for future cases, tuned to the needs of younger and older patients, of patients of different body weight and different ages. And so we're getting to be a more sophisticated system that will be more reliable, safe, and trustworthy. And that's the idea. Let's take one more example of the design of wheelchairs. The old wheelchairs were very heavy and required a caretaker to push the wheelchairs. It was just too heavy to be moved by the patient themselves. And so they went to robotic devices, which would navigate automatically to the destination, but then the user was no longer in control. Newer wheelchairs were lightweight and hand-powered. Users could move it themselves. They could steer it themselves. And so that led to some creative ideas like wheelchair races or wheelchair basketball. And so new opportunities appear when you give people full control. And the current direction is motorized, joystick controlled, teleoperated, and programmable ones. And there may be a central control center which collects performance from hundreds or thousands of wheelchairs and thereby has the data to improve the next generation of wheelchairs and provide better maintenance for the existing wheelchairs. So that's the framework that I hope you can think about to understand that there are at least 2 dimensions to the design problem, that you can have lower-high computer automation and lower-high human control. Some people have suggested, well, maybe you need 3 dimensions or 4 dimensions. And yes, I can see quite easily how a 3rd dimension might give us new design principles, and we might look for those applications that were lightweight recommenders like movie or restaurant recommenders. We might have more consequential applications that were part of legal or medical decision-making, and then we might have life-critical decisions in transportation systems and in medical and military systems. So this opens up the possibility of design and suggests that there's a lot more to think about. And I'll come back and we'll take a look at some examples of how we put this to work. That's the first idea, the Hcii framework, to get high computer control, high computer automation, and high human control. The second idea is to change the design metaphors that we use. And we begin with a little philosophy. And I believe that robots are simply not people. Margaret Bowden said this, British researcher. Humans, not robots, are responsible agents, Johanna Bryson. And I say people are not computers, computers are not people. What this means is 3 different things. Responsibility, only humans are liable, legally and morally. Computers are just tools, and they are not legally liable or responsible. And so it's a different category. And so design has to change to accommodate that need. The second issue is if you think of computers as being like people, and you design social robots and you design machines to be like people, you may forget that computers have sophisticated algorithms, huge databases, superhuman sensors, information abundant displays, and powerful effectors. And so I would like to see that more attention be given to the distinct features. And I want computers to be different from people because they're just a different category. They're not in the same category. The third principle is I believe in human creativity, that people have passion, empathy, and humility and intuition, and we want to support human creativity which operates in a very different way from the algorithmic approaches of computer systems, even from those based on machine learning. So what does this mean, this basic philosophy? It means we have to reconsider the old metaphors, the intelligent agents, the teammates, collaborators, or partners, the assured autonomy, or the social robots. Those ideas to me seem archaic. They seem old and tired and not ones that will produce the successful commercial products of the future. What I think, I must say, they're attractive ideas, but they need to be refined to make them to a guide for commercial practice. And I use the language of AI-infused super tools, telebots, control centers, and active appliances. And I'm going to take a look at a few examples of each of these. So my favorite example of super tool I've already mentioned, the digital camera, which allows the user to make many choices before they take the picture, while they're taking the picture, and after they've taken the picture. They can adjust the lighting, they can adjust the cropping, and many of the features, and then they can share it with their friends and family easily. A lot of AI built into digital cameras, a lot of human control for the things that matter to people. And we want to support people's creativity. That's what a super tool does. Similarly, navigation choices. Here I ask for a route from the White House downtown in Washington to the University of Maryland in College Park, 8 miles away. And the AI machine learning algorithm gives me 3 choices. And it provides information about estimates of how long it will take to get there and where the traffic blocks are. It's a very well-designed strategy, but I'm in control. I can select which route, and then I begin my trip, but I can change at any time. It doesn't lock me in. I can change the route I'm taking. I can change my destination, and the system will recompute to give me what I want. The successful AI implementations such as text auto-completion or search auto-completion also give users control. I type in University of Maryland and I get a series of choices, and that remind me of what I might want, but I can reject them or I can accept them. And spelling corrections as well. It gives me suggestions that I can ignore or I can put to work. So that's what I mean by a super tool. A bigger super tool is the Bloomberg terminal. Bloomberg News every day takes in 1.6 million articles and using AI and natural language processing, organizes, clusters, and presents the data in an orderly way in this information abundant display that has tiled, not overlapped windows, organized by the user for their specific needs in a spatially stable configuration. So simply a glance of the eye lets them get the information they need to guide their decisions. This is so valuable that more than 300,000 people spend more than $20,000 a year to have this on their desk. That's the benefit of excellence in super tool design. And I think we'll see more such super tools. We're seeing Bloomberg-like terminals for medical decision-making and for many other application areas. Active appliances are your ordinary kitchen devices, which are increasingly being infused with AI machine learning algorithms to monitor performance, to improve the presentations, and to control the devices to make them energy efficient and to give you just the right cup of coffee or just the right the taste in the rice that you cook. Similarly, your dishwasher, clothes washers, and dryers are all becoming AI infused so that you have better control over the systems and that they can be more efficient for your use. And of course, the Google Nest thermostat, the Roomba, for cleaning homes. All of those are further examples of the way active appliances are getting AI additions. Security systems, heating, ventilation, air conditioning are all getting to be AI and machine learning based, and that's going to improve performance and make for a better environment. The medical case, I described pacemakers as being autonomous before, but they're becoming user-controlled. The pacemakers are now operated by the patient, who can, on their cell phone, control the pacemaker. And then the manufacturer, Medtronic, can monitor thousands of these devices, collect the data on the performance, and use better machine learning algorithms to improve the performance for users, and also detect when they are beginning to fail and when they need to be replaced. So that is the new strategy, to shift to a balanced and distributed and shared approach to systems that gives human control as well as high levels of automation. We hear about the Mars rover as being an autonomous vehicle on the surface of Mars. And yes, it's autonomous in that it can avoid obstacles, avoid precipices. It can adjust the solar panels to point to the sun, can adjust the antennas to point to the right position. But still, NASA has a control room with about 80 people who operate this device. And they make the plans for what it's to do and where it's to go and what experiments should be run. They deal with failures of the device, with dust that collects, with problems that arise, and they deal with opportunities that arise. When something unexpected happens, they can change the plan for the robot because they see the opportunity. So human creativity, responsibility, and flexibility are supported by this design as well. The surgical devices are also best seen as telebots. And the manufacturer, Da Vinci, says, robots don't perform surgery. Your surgeon performs surgery with Da Vinci by using instruments that he or she guides via a console. So the surgeon can make small incisions, and then these devices get placed very carefully and precisely deep into the human body and can make precise changes and cuts and do the things the surgeon needs to do with minimal or reduced invasive principles. So that's a bright future that I think we'll continue to see, human control of telebots. Control centers, I've mentioned already here, a hospital control center that supervises the intensive care units and many devices, emergency dispatch, and so on. And that's what increasingly we see, even though machine learning is helping to do all of those processes. Other control centers like this one reflect the idea that I've said of information abundant displays, of people working together, collaborating, and being able to work successfully to get the data they need to make rapid decisions, even though there's a great deal of AI and machine learning working in the background. So that's the second strategy. And the third one is the governance structures. Any system sufficiently powerful, such as AI and Hcai systems, human-centered AI systems, needs to have structures that are socio-technical systems. And in my understanding, I see 15 recommendations at 4 levels. The first level is the team of software engineers of 3, 4, 5, or 15 people who work together to create the AI programs. Teams, though, there may be many teams within an organization, a company typically. They may have 20 or 30 teams. And within the organization, there should be consistency across teams and a safety culture that's demonstrated by leadership commitment, proper hiring and training, studies and analyses of failures and near misses, internal reviews of problems, and then adherence to industry standards. The next oval is the industry, which may have many companies in it, such as transportation or medical industries, manufacturing, electronic commerce. And here we need trustworthy certification by external reviews. And the key idea is independent oversight, which could be provided by the auditing firms, KPMG, Ernst & Young, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte, and others all around the world do auditing of financial data, but they're beginning to move into auditing of AI systems, and that's a good thing as well. Insurance companies will play a role. They've been very effective in the building industries, in medical, and in transportation. But the challenge to insurance companies, in the automobile industry at least, is what should they do about setting premiums for self-driving cars? Should cars like the Tesla Autopilot have higher premiums or lower premiums? And you might start by saying, what's the data? I wondered how many deaths there were and accidents from Tesla cars. There's a website called tesladeaths.com. tesladeaths.com. If you go there, you'll be surprised to find, as I was, that when I last checked, there were more than 200 deaths with Tesla cars. Not all of them were on autopilot. In fact, we don't really know. The information was collected from newspapers around the world, and so we don't have a complete set of knowledge. Tesla tells us that their cars are safer than regular cars, but they don't make that data available for us to understand and study on our own. About a month ago in the United States, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration began an investigation of 11 crashes of Tesla cars while on autopilot that crashed into emergency vehicles on the road or on the side of the road. So these would be ambulances or fire trucks or police vehicles. And this investigation will help us better understand what went wrong. Why is it that these Tesla autopilots drove right into these emergency vehicles, in one case, killing one of the policemen? So that will be another way in which we begin to understand. And that kind of independent oversight from government agencies and from insurance companies and from auditing firms will help a great deal to improve the reliability, safety, and trustworthiness of human-centered AI systems. That's what I see as the future. There's too much to discuss in these 15 recommendations. I will focus just on the idea of team recommendations for software engineering. There are 5 of them to make reliable systems. The first, the one I'd like to focus on, is audit trails. In civil aviation, the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder have been enormously effective in making safe civil aviation. The data from the flight data recorder has given analysts who do the retrospective forensic analysis an understanding of what went wrong and then what should be done to prevent that from happening again. Question is, how do we make audit trails for AI systems? What is a flight data recorder for a robot? What do you need to keep track of for a self-driving car? So those are very important research questions, and yet I would say there's a real opportunity because they have been unexplored. There's lots of patents about flight data recorders, but very little research about what's needed for different kind of medical devices, manufacturing devices, and transportation devices. A related idea is incident reporting systems. So the partnership on AI has launched a website called AI Incident Database, and it allows public reporting of problems with AI systems. And they've already collected more than 1,000 reports. And you can go to that webpage and search for self-driving cars or medical devices and find out the kind of problems that have occurred in different systems. We need more of that. We need more ways to collect the data to find out what went wrong so that we can make sure it goes right the next time. But I'm going to focus mostly now on explainable user interfaces. This to me is an important idea, and the key idea is to have ways in which when a user gets a recommendation or a decision from an AI system, that they can ask for an explanation. This right of explanation was guaranteed by the European GDPR regulation, which stipulated that users could ask for an explanation. This triggered a great deal of innovative research about how to do this. And the arguments generally went between local decisions and local explanations versus global. Global meant to explain how the AI system, the neural net, the machine learning worked. And those turned out to be less effective and less useful than local systems. So local explanations, if you were applying for a mortgage or a job or parole, then you would get an explanation of why you didn't get what you wanted. That's a good idea, and in many cases that will be useful. And 98% of the explainable AI research is devoted to retrospective explanations that reduce confusion when a decision has been made. But I suggest there's a better approach, and the new goal is to prevent the confusion and surprise by better user interfaces, what I call prospective user interfaces that are interactive, visual, and exploratory. Let's take a look at a simple example. This is a familiar example of requesting a mortgage from a bank. You type in the mortgage amount of here, $375,000, the household monthly income, $7,000, liquid assets, $48,000. And then you click on submit. And you get an explanation. We're sorry, your mortgage was not approved. You might be approved if you reduce the mortgage amount requested, increase your household monthly income, or increase your liquid assets. This is considered a pretty good post hoc retrospective explanation. However, it doesn't really tell you how much you need to reduce your mortgage request, how much you need to increase your household income, or how much you need to increase your liquid assets. This is what I propose as a model of a prospective user interface, a set of sliders by which you can explore the space in advance of getting any decision. And you can see what your current score is and why you didn't get approval. And as you move the mortgage amount requested to the left, you get more blue, so the score goes up. If you move household monthly income to the right, you get more blue, and the score goes up. If you move liquid assets to the right, maybe you borrow money from family members, then you get a better score until you get closer to the approval level. And that's the goal here. That exploration allows the users to understand the sensitivity of each of these features, which ones make a lot of difference, which ones make only a little difference. I know that this is a simple example. Real problems have many more variables. It's much more complicated, but this is the idea I propose to you. And I've seen several bank systems that begin to move in this direction of giving you feedback about what your score would be as you change each of the variables. And I've also seen this idea applied in other places. Here's a delightful example from some British librarians where this is a book recommender system for novels. And you get to choose 4 sliders and move them along. So you can choose from funny to serious, from beautiful to disgusting, from no sexual content to explicit sexual content, from optimistic to bleak. And as you adjust these sliders, the cover images change immediately. And so you know exactly why you got that recommendation. Okay? There's no confusion. You generated that result. You were in control. A lot of automation, but you are in control. And this idea is applied in newspaper recommenders where you may have sliders for politics, sports, and entertainment. And as you move the politics slider over, you get more stories about politics. Or if you go sports, you get all the sports stories that you want. So you understand how the recommender works and you're in control. And that idea has been spreading. This music recommender system uses 5 of the 14 attributes in Spotify: acousticness, instrumentalness, danceability, valence, and energy. And then as you move these sliders, the recommendations change immediately. Okay. The OECD's ratings of countries for Better Life Index also uses these kind of sliders to guide you in choosing and understanding the different ways of life in different countries. So that's the story here. Those are the 3 parts. And to summarize, I want to remind you that the first part is the 2-dimensional model, which lets you think about new ways of designing. And I suggest that the combination of high user control and high computer automation is what we want to find ways to do it. We want to give users control of the features they want, and we want to let the computer help us when they can provide reliable, safe, and trustworthy services. Sometimes we need high degree of autonomy for machines. Sometimes we need high degree of autonomy for people. We have to understand which situations we are working in. And we have to remember the dangers of excessive automation and excessive human control. Design is a challenge. It's interesting. It's fun. It's creative. The second message to you today is to change the design metaphors, to move towards the idea of AI-infused super tools, telebots, control centers, and active appliances. Those terms will guide you to the right kind of designs and the right principles. The third message is we have to think of AI systems as being part of a large socio-technical system. So we have to manage not just the technical parts, but the organizations, the industries, and then government regulation and intervention where that can be helpful. You can read more about it. These 3 ideas are described in 3 papers that were published during 2020. And my webpage of HCIL does have human-centered AI as a page where all the information is, including the table of contents and information about the book that I've completed about this topic that will be published shortly by Oxford University Press on the topic of simply human-centered AI, how to build technologies that let people work together and support their work. Alan Mackworth at the University of British Columbia wrote a wonderful review. He said, "The book is well-structured and a delight to read." Thank you, Alan. "The coverage is comprehensive, but it will be controversial." And I think that's true. I know that my position is still a minority one, but many people are coming to join the movement towards human-centered AI. We'll see at the forthcoming December NeurIPS conference, one of the main conferences in AI, there's a workshop on human-centered AI. The Dagstuhl workshop in Germany in next June will be about human-centered AI. One after another, we're finding special issues of journals, special parts of conferences devoted to human-centered AI. So that's what I see as the future. My book is organized in this structure. We talk about the ethical issues, the human values, the rights, the human rights, social justice, the dignity for individuals. And the way to accomplish this is by supporting individual goals of self-efficacy, creativity, responsibility, and social connections. We do this by excellence in design that seeks to build reliable, safe, and trustworthy systems at the levels of teams, organizations, industry, and government. The three principles are the Hci Framework, the design metaphors, and the governance structures. We always have to remember that there are many stakeholders. I list a few of them here. We have to think not only about the researchers who are devoted to one aspect of it, but the developers who seek commercial success and have the interests of customers in mind. The business leaders who have to decide on what kind of products to make and how to build them so they're safe, reliable, and effective. Policymakers in government and the users, the vast ocean of users are the people we need to succeed in using these systems. At the same time, we have to remember the threats when we build human-centered AI, the malicious actors who would misuse the system for distributing misinformation, for spreading hate, and for inspiring violence and terrorism. These are dangerous forces. It won't be the algorithms that do it. It will be those who use the algorithms in adversarial ways. We also have to understand the bias in the data and the bias in our thinking. And we have to recognize and take the sense of humility that our software could be flawed, as we've seen again and again. So that's the structure for the book. But I leave you with the message that the future is human-centered. If you're interested to know more, please join the Google group human-centered-AI, human-centered-AI. There's already 1,700 people only in a few months that have joined this group. And I send out once a week a notice to these people that covers the current issues and some further thinking. Comments come back to me, but there's only one email message per week. So please do join. And if you do so in the next hour or two, I'll be sending out the next note in a few hours from now. Join or follow our Twitter account, Human Centered AI, and visit our website with resources, hcai.site. So that's my message for today. I thank you so much for this opportunity, and I leave you with the message to remember that the future is human-centered. We are going to build a better world by enabling people to be more creative, more responsible, more in charge of their world, and build their social connections. It's a message that I believe in. I hope you will join and contribute to this growing movement. Thank you again for this opportunity, and I'm glad to stay and answer questions.
Thank you, Professor Ben Shneiderman, for your talk. We are very happy to have you here today. We have some questions. First of all, I would like to comment about your examples are really great. I have not think about that. The first question we have is from Newtonberg Carvalho. How Hci Framework can contribute to Explainable artificial intelligence?
Right. The Hci framework is relevant to explainable AI because the current models for explanation assume full machine automation. The machine provides the explanation. But I'm suggesting the approach is to allow user exploration. Give them the controls, the sliders, the buttons, the selectors that let them understand and explore how the model works. And that way you can avoid the need, you can prevent the confusion. That's the lesson we learned 30 years ago from knowledge-based expert systems, where post hoc explanations were not successful. And the rule-based systems that followed walked users along step by step in how a decision was made. So they understood the process at every point. And that's what Amazon and most e-commerce systems, they walk you through the process, for example, of checkout. And there's a step-by-step 4 stages to make a purchase and to get it shipped to you. And so by working step by step with the user in control, enabling them to go back and change their answers and explore the alternatives and ask questions along the way, that becomes the successful model. We're beginning to see those built and being tested. Katrien Verbert at the University of Leuven in Belgium has been a leader in this topic, and she and her team have done a dozen experiments that show again and again that when people are given controls that they understand, they are not only happier, but they're more likely to complete the process and accept recommendations that come from systems in which they are in control.
Great. We have another comment from Fabio Silva. He said, I'm hearing impaired and I have recently changed my hearing aid. And with this new model, I can control some features with my cell phone. For example, I can reduce noise. Very nice.
I don't see a question there, but I'm pleased to hear that you can now get better control of the features via the cell phone, and so reducing noise, and that's what I think is an improvement. You give users control. So depending on whether the noise is high-pitched or low-pitched, it may be possible for you to adjust the features. So I think machine learning algorithms can provide a great assistance, but user control will enable you to get a better experience.
Next question. Natalia Alves asked, how could Hci AI be used in automatic AI assessment tools for assessing the originality of an app created by a student?
Yes, that's difficult to do. To assess originality and creativity is difficult at any point. And so unless you can decompose what you mean by originality, it will be very difficult to do that. Just assessment of AI tools is an important issue. I'm working with, in the US, the National Institute for Standards and Technology about assessing the trustworthiness of AI systems. And it's a really difficult issue. If I give you 2 systems, can you tell me which one is more trustworthy or is a better design? And which features, if I change them, would improve that design? These are very difficult issues. These are great research questions. The question you ask is a really good one. I don't have an answer, but I hope you'll work on that problem.
Next question. Selmar talks. Professor Shneiderman, thank you for your inspiring presentation and for all your previous work. I have a question. If I understand correctly, approaches related to visualization plus machine learning, visual analytics, and explainable AI have a great potential to contribute to the another part.
I agree. High computer, high. Yes, you are right. Visualization for me is a really important process. Fernanda Viegas, Brazilian woman who studied at MIT, works at Google, has shown wonderful results that if you add visualization systems, it helps the machine learning programmers to better understand their own systems. Visualization is a very powerful tool that, when designed correctly, helps enormously. It gives our eyes, our minds, a powerful telescope or a microscope to understand the world of AI. And so, yes, I believe very much in adding visualization. There are recently some very good survey papers that study maybe 300 papers that have been done about visualization and machine learning. It's a fast-growing topic. There's a lot to be done. There's a lot of improvements to be made. Yes, bravo.
Next question from Jean. Thanks, Professor. Do you believe that the main challenge for autonomous car manufacturers is the balance between human control versus computer automation? Do we are talking about responsibility and car manufacturers always say the definition like a human passenger is not required to take control of the vehicle at any time, nor is a human passenger required to be present at the vehicle at all.
Okay, well, could have a whole talk about self-driving cars. I prefer if they were called safe driving cars. And I complain that the Society for Automotive Engineers talks about levels of automation very much in the way Tom Sheridan did in 1980. The Society of Automobile Engineers has 6 levels, 0 to 5, which go from full human control to full computer automation. Again, the wrong idea. They need to look specifically, feature by feature, which features can you automate? So features like lane following and collision avoidance are aspects of self-driving. Those are very beneficial. And the Institute for Highway Safety, which has studied these methods, shows that collision avoidance, which prevents you from running into the car in front of you, will reduce the most number of accidents, but those are usually not deadly. Lane following prevents more deadly accidents. So one by one, the features can be automated. Now, you talk about whether you could have a car without any passengers at all. Yes, but then a control center should be in charge and supervising what happens. So the Waymo system being tested now in Phoenix, Arizona, has a control center that monitors all the self-driving cars, taxis in these cases, and the passengers can at any time contact the control center or simply press a button that gets the car to come to rest at the side of the road safely. So there are more choices to make if you open your mind. We could have a self-parking car. I'd like that. That's something that's a lot easier to think about. We might have garages that only allow self-parking car. You drive up to the garage, you step out, and then your car goes into the garage, finds a place to park, it parks. And when you want your car, you call it and it comes back, and then you drive your car. So some aspects, if we look at feature by feature, what is it that we can automate is a much better way to think about it. And again, my message to you is, first, let's build safe driving cars, and then we can talk about self-driving cars.
Next question is from our dear Professor Simone Barbosa. To what extent can Xai revert a common situation of users accepting AI systems recommendations versus asking for more explanation until they feel they can make a very informed decision?
Thank you, Simone. Very nice to hear from you. I hope we'll get to meet again sometime soon. You've been a very important contributor, not only in Brazil, but all around the world in your efforts in Hci. So yes, explainable AI will be helpful, but as I think you're suggesting that what you want to do is to support what's often called query in depth. You don't just get an answer, but you can ask a question and you can follow up and you can get more and more information. And you talk about better informed decision. Our studies and others have shown that when the users can explore, they spend more time making their decision, but they're more likely to follow through on the decision, to make a better informed decision, and to trust the system more. So here again, the message is when you can automate, okay, automate. But in general, you want to give users information, allow them to engage in dialogue and discussion, and to better understand the systems that they are using. Thank you.
Next question. It's from Professor Raquel Prats. Hi, Ben. Welcome back to Brazil. Thank you for a great talk.
Thank you, Raquel. Nice to hear from you.
A lot of examples for explainability are regarding on one given decision. Can you talk about how you see explainability would play a role in a tighter connection human-computer process? Next. For instance, if your phone is making decisions which calls it will put through or considering what are doing in a given moment, as a secretary would.
Right. I mean, another factor in the design space is the speed of reaction needed. And so that also determines how much information you can be presented to the user and how quickly a decision can be made. There are situations where performance must happen in milliseconds, and so they must operate rapidly. So in airplanes, the jet engines make thousands of decisions every second. They must operate automatically. But the pilots are watching what happens, and they make decisions at the rate of every few minutes. And so they get to monitor, and they make it at a different level. And the managers of the airplane company make decisions over a period of hour of delaying planes, canceling flights, diverting to other airports, choosing different routes. And then further along, those who do the maintenance and supervision have decision time frames over months. So the situation you're describing of letting your phone decide which calls to put through is something, as much as possible, you should be able to choose and control these. But you may set out a set of guidelines as to which calls which calls the phone should prioritize. Maybe from your family members should get high priority, and maybe from people on your contact list should get the next priority, and people outside your contact list should be further away. So I would like to see systems where users can control what the algorithm is. You know, I think that Facebook, in its newsfeed algorithm, has about 120 controls for users, but they're not that well designed and they're quite deeply buried. So most users don't even know that they can make some controls over those systems. And so we have a lot to learn still about how to design the controls to give users the right kind of features. If you look at mature technologies like automobiles, there's lots of controls, but we come to know we can adjust the seat, we can adjust the heating, we can adjust the loudness of the radio, we adjust the mirrors. We expect to adjust all these things. That's what it should be for every device. We should have easy controls that let us adjust, take control. Those systems that try to adjust the seat for you automatically, or the lighting or other things, they just didn't work out as successfully. People need to be in charge of their own world.
Thank you. Next question. We are finished, so we have 2 more questions because our time is gone. Gabriel Barbosa asked, thank you for your talk, Professor Shneiderman, regarding audit trail. In addition to have data about system functioning,
Thank you very much.
How could we tie specify incidents to the design decisions that led their occurrence? What level of documentation do you believe would be necessary?
Well, as I say, it's different for every system, for medical systems, for self-driving cars, but that is a very important research project. What do I need in an audit trail? What do I need in a documentation? In the last 3 years, the rise of data sheets for data sets, of model cards, and IBM's documentation methods have shown that the industry is moving towards the idea of documentation, but it's still an open question of what kind of documentation is necessary. You've got the right question. That's one of the research issues that this community could take on. Thank you again. I appreciate this day and the time to have discussions with you, and I hope there'll be future opportunities.
So we're gonna finish here. Thank you everyone to the presence, and thank you the Professor Ben Shneiderman for your presence with us. We are very happy to have you here, and we are gonna use your talk on our classes and explain this video to our students, and have this opportunity is very important to us 20 years after your first visiting of our event. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Marcel. Thank you, the whole team, for making it possible.